Today, we're talking all about how to plan an unforgettable worship night for your student ministry.
Welcome to the Ministry Coach Podcast, where we give you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your youth ministry. If we've never met before, my name is Jeff Lascola, and this is
Kristen Lascola.
And I'm not sure if you checked out the episode we did last week. It was all about a tour of our youth group night, like from start to finish, everything that happens kind of behind the scenes. But that was our 250th episode, which we were really proud of. And so hopefully you'll have a chance to see that. But that also means we're doing a giveaway, and we didn't do it last week. So we're starting it this week. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the end of this episode for details on how to enter that.
Yes. And today basically is considered a giveaway for everybody because we're going to help you plan your worship night. If you're going to do a worship night.
You're welcome.
Yeah, for student ministries, we're going to take you through the whole thing, start to finish, how to schedule it, plan it, song choice ideas, all kinds of stuff. So, you know what surprises me every time? Like this morning is a perfect example. I'm looking at my student leadership bio boards. So we have a little board for each student with their picture, and it has questions like, what's your favorite Disney movie? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? If you could travel anywhere, where would it be? And one of the questions on there is, what's your favorite part of Chaos, our youth group? And I would say about 80% of the students wrote worship. And I was looking at it this morning, and I was trying to get our worship leader's attention, and she stepped out of the room. And I was going to show her, look how much the kids love worship. Mm-hmm. And one of my leaders that was standing by, Johnny, he's like, that's so funny because most of them talk during worship and they don't appear to be loving it all the time. I said, yeah, but inevitably when I get up to speak right after worship, there's this little crew of girls right in the front, and they're always crying. Like they're always like having this moment. And some students, I think, don't really get it. Like maybe they're new to the faith, or maybe they're not even Christians yet. And they're just kind of like, when are the songs over? Right. Or maybe they're kind of paying attention, but they're not fully immersed yet. But there are some students that are like soaking in every second of it. And so if you wanted to do a night like either in place of your regular youth group, I don't know that I would totally recommend that, just because I think that's more of the draw for new people to come and see. But if I were doing a worship night, I would do it on a separate night, like maybe a Friday night. Yeah. Summer is always a great time, or any time of year really works, but a Friday night exclusive worship night for students who know exactly what they're getting into. I think the reason for that is because if you did a worship night on a regular youth group night, and there's students who had never been to your church, maybe weren't Christians, and they were coming to church for the very first time, they might feel a little out of place. Like, how can you... And maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. Argue against that. I'm sure you have another opinion on that. I just think for myself, if I was brand new to a faith and I had to go full in, hands up, eyes closed worship, I might be like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, right, and what is everyone else doing. But if I were maybe got a little taste of it at youth group and was like, oh, okay, worship, and then there were other things as well, I might be excited to go worship night next time if I kind of was maybe a little more prepared for what I could expect. Right. I think worship is it could be a difficult experience for people who are brand new Christians, not Christians, new to the faith, and it doesn't mean, so don't worship around them. We don't want to make them uncomfortable. I'm just saying strategically plan it for a night where they know what they're getting into. Right. So I think the first thing I would do, our students are very, very particular with their worship set lists preferences. So they like what they like. And I feel like sometimes worship nights for me, like I want to sing the songs I know and love. Yeah. It's like when you go to a concert and
we're going to play some new stuff. You're like, no.
I know. It's kind of like, wait, but I wanted that one that just hit. Right. And I knew, and I think everyone has those. Like, think of yourself. Like, what are those songs that when you hear it, you're like, oh, like, yes,
Yeah.
I feel it. And not that you couldn't get into a new song at some point. Like every song was a new song at some point to you, but it's like,
if that's the bulk of what you're playing, it's difficult.
And my students get very excited for the ones they know and love. So I would go so far as to even take a poll a few different ways before your worship night, maybe a few weeks before, whether that's like an Instagram story poll asking what their favorite worship songs or the requests for worship night. You could have little pieces of paper that they fill out and write and throw it in, like for the weeks leading up to it, like worship votes here. You could have a number they text it to. I don't know, whatever your style is, it doesn't really matter. You could ask the small groups to brainstorm and like for 5 minutes in their small groups and write it down and put it in their small group folder, and you could look through them. But just to give you an example of some of our students' favorite worship songs, because I feel like sometimes youth pastors will reach out and they'll be like, what are some of like the songs your kids like? So this is just a few. They love Reckless Love, Goodbye Yesterday, Happy Day, Deep Dive, Freedom Generation, Victory Is Yours. That's a North Coast Church one. That's ours. Our church wrote it. So if you're not familiar with it, go to the North Coast Church Spotify. You'll find it. I Thank God, Gratitude, Build My Life, Graves into Gardens, and Made for More. And I think you have plenty right there. And then I'm
kind
sure
of a mix too. It's
fast,
some newer,
slow,
and some newer,
mid.
some older.
Yeah. And like if your youth group has your favorites and you're like, we're good, skip, these are just ideas if you're looking for them. So I would want the students to go in knowing we're going to do the one that you are waiting for, not like throwing the wrench in, like we're teaching you new songs tonight. And then the second thing I would do is I would pre-film some testimonies from some older, more mature students and or leaders. And the video testimonies, I think the sweet spot's about like 2 minutes. I mean, 3 if someone's very eloquent, I guess. But it's just kind of like to break it up a little bit and add some testimony of what God is doing in the lives of the people that we know and love and people that normally don't get a chance to teach or speak. And doing it on video, I think is a great idea because you have a lot of control in terms of timing and editing. For someone who's not a very experienced speaker, you could kind of edit out their ums, uhs, and flubs so that you can make it look a little bit more nice and neat for them. And I have even some example questions that I like to ask of the people who are going to give testimonies. So if you need some ideas, I would usually email these out like the week or two before we do it so that they can be thinking about it. And then we take them into like a quiet room during small groups or before or after youth group. We just find a time to film and then we edit it down. So we would ask them, do you remember what your life was like before God or before you were a Christian? How would you describe it? And if they're having a hard time doing that, just say, can you think of 2 or 3 words that would describe that? How would you describe your relationship with God now? When did God become real to you? When did your relationship with him become your own? And tell us about that process. Did you go through a time when you struggled with your faith? How did you come through it? Have you come through it? What would you tell a junior hire, or maybe in your case, a high schooler or a student and a teenager that is struggling with their faith? What would you tell them? When following God is hard, how do you know it's worth it? And this is just a jumping off point, add or delete, however you want. But I feel like within that variety of questions, I've usually gotten enough good meat to help students see like the story of somebody else, that like the ups, the downs, the before, the after, the struggle, the win, all of that kind of stuff kind of mixed in there. So it's just sort of some guided prompts. And what I'll do off camera is ask the question. So like I'll be in the room, and if I was saying it to you, I'd be like, okay, Jeff, tell us about a time you struggled with your faith. And then I say, Jeff, make sure you use the question in your answer, and then we'll edit my voice out.
Yeah.
Because if they just...
So you basically repeat it back. A time that I struggled with my faith was...
Yeah.
And then you answer.
Right. Because sometimes they need me to have a conversation with them to be able to express their story, but I don't want them to hear me. I mean, that is a style of editing, like where the producers ask the question and they leave the audio in.
Right.
So,
or you just do like a screen where it's the text or the question written on that screen and then their answer.
Yes, exactly. So lots of methods. That's just how we do it. Is it the best way? Probably not. I don't know. It's just how I do it. And so I would have those testimonies recorded, edited, ready to go. We already talked about. Now we have our set list. We have the songs students love and know and are excited to come and do. And so now let's talk about a schedule. So how would you actually put it together, the nuts and bolts to make the night flow pretty well? Again, this is a jumping off point if you would like to use it, but here's how I would do it for about an hour, hour and a half program. I think for junior high, an hour is probably the perfect amount of time based on what we're going to talk about. If you have high schoolers, I think you could go an hour and a half. I think
one more.
I think that they would love it. Did I sound like Porky Pig? I sounded like Porky Pig. Okay. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
Why are you just like, okay?
I don't know.
Because you thought it was offensive if you agree or something?
No. What?
I don't know. You acted weird like, sure.
We don't talk about Porky Pig. That's Looney Tunes. We moved on to Pixar and Disney. Come on, hurry up now. Porky Pig is offensive. That was his name.
No, I am a Porky Pig.
I have no idea where we're going at this point, but I love it. So let's go with it. Anyways.
I sounded like Porky Pig. Agree.
That, yeah.
That's all.
Side note, I worked with a guy who he did sound exactly like that one time, and it was really hard.
Only one time?
No.
One time I worked with the guy one time because you said it like.
Well, then I got fired, so it kind of was one time.
Is that when you were digging holes for a living?
No. That was something else.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Story for a different day.
Back on track.
Here we go.
The schedule. Ready, Jeff? Paint. Hey, no more messing around.
Let's do this.
All right. So I was saying if you have high school, you could do like an hour and a half. And I think that they would really like that. And Porky Pig would like that too. So, have the students come in, welcome them. Normally, I'm always trying to create a hype environment like music and snacks. This is probably more of a mellow night where, you just have a vibe going with music. The lights are probably dim. You could light some candles, have different scripture like on your screens or stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be like somber, but we're trying to create the vibe as they walk in that this is going to be a more reflective night. This is going to be a little quieter. We're not going to play dodgeball, but we're here to focus our attention on Jesus and Jesus only, which, we always are, but sometimes we do that in different ways.
You
having
said
more fun.
Probably have the lights dim. I would say absolutely have the lights dim.
Absolutely have the lights
Unless you have
dim.
a reason for why you wouldn't, but I feel like that just helps people kind of like thinking back to being a middle schooler or a high schooler. I was so aware of like myself and not like, well, probably in a selfish way, but not so much like, what am I wearing? How am I walking? Like, what are my gestures like? You're so concerned with like, oh my gosh, do I look stupid? That when you kind of lower the lights, it kind of helps you just blend in and be. And that kind of goes back to the knowing the songs, because when you're playing new songs and you're having to read the lyrics, like, okay, what is this? Like, what are we singing here? And yeah, you can get into it, but it's easier when it's like, I know the lyrics and I feel like I don't even have to open my eyes. I can have my eyes closed because I know all the lyrics and just kind of enjoy the ambience and really get closer to God, I think, in that moment.
Instead of trying to like learn.
Focus.
Something.
Like, what is this saying?
Yeah.
Okay, let's read.
I like that. That's a good point. The eyes closed thing. Yeah, that's a good point. So then I'd have somebody who's ready to MC the night. That might be you as the youth pastor. And, welcome the students in and kind of take about 5 minutes to sort of cast the vision for the night, set the tone of what this is and what your hope is for it. Maybe a scripture, that you want to unpack quickly and just get the heart tone in the right space. And then, you're maybe have the band start warming up behind you while you're there and playing some kind of riff or intro. And then I would jump right into the songs. So depending on what age you work with, you could change the tempo to fit your group. So I would probably like to start, because junior high, I would like to start with 2 fast songs and very fast songs. You know, we do this event in March called Starving to Serve. We've talked about it on the podcast before, and we do some really hype worship. And the kids are just like pouring their heart out, having so much fun. I kind of like to start on a high note and I like to end on a high note. So change this according to your preference, but I would start with 2 fast songs. And then I would do a mid tempo. And that would be my first 3. Now between that intro that you just gave and those 3 songs, you're now about 20 minutes into the program. And then I would throw up the testimony video. I wouldn't even intro it. I would just put it straight up. So let's say that's 2 or 3 minutes. And then I would do, on the back end of that testimony, 2 slow songs. And then I would do a mid tempo. And then I would do another testimony. So now we're on testimony number 2. And then after that testimony, I would do 2 slow songs. And then I would do communion. And so again, another reason why this is not best suited for a youth group night. Communion, the way our church teaches it, it's for people who have made the commitment to already follow Jesus. And so you don't want to put unbelievers or new people in a weird position. Now, will new people and unbelievers show up to your worship night? Maybe. It's not like you're going to check IDs at the door. Like, where's your Christian card? So that's why you're going to need an explanation before you do communion. So you're going to get up and do a Devo, and you're going to talk about the purpose of communion, who should take communion, why we do it. You could turn it into a little sermonette or something like that. And we always just say, you know, if you haven't stepped over that line yet and said yes to Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, feel free to just bypass it. You know, the Bible says, here's who it's for. And if you are interested in a relationship with Jesus, we're going to have a prayer team up here. We would love to talk to you more about that. If you're interested, if you have questions, if you're seeking that, we want to talk to you about that. Yeah. And I'll get into that in a second, like the prayer team aspect, but you can do communion. The way I really like doing communion so that you have an easy out for people who are not believers is leave it in stations and have people get up and go get it whenever they're ready. So the worship team keeps playing and you can sit and reflect, confess, whatever, and just have a moment. And then whenever you're ready, you get up and take communion. When communion is served, I feel like it puts the unbeliever in a very difficult spot because when it comes through, they feel like I have to grab it or else everyone's looking at me like, oh, they're the ones, you know? So if everyone's kind of getting up, you can blend in a lot easier. And so that's just my preference. So, you know, you can have like, however your church likes to serve communion, the bread and the juice or the little packs that are already done, whatever you want to do. And then I would have the instrumental or the worship team kind of keep going until they feel like everyone who needed to do it has done it and had their time to pause and reflect. Junior hires probably will need less time to do that than high schoolers. High schoolers might take a little bit longer. And then to kind of break that, to let them know, all right, like next step here, I would throw up your third testimony. And so after that, I would do one more mid-tempo song and then end on a fast song. So all of that is about hour and a half if you stretch it. So just to reiterate, welcome, 2 fast, 1 mid-tempo, testimony, 2 slow, 1 mid-tempo, testimony, 2 slow, communion, testimony, 1 mid-tempo, 1 fast. And that's the night. And you could rearrange that however you want.
Yeah. And obviously communion might look a little bit different based off of denomination or, you know, what church you're at. So
exactly.
Fill in the blank for that.
Yeah. Fill in the blank. So here's the extra elements that I kind of want to talk about. So that's the nuts and bolts. And now this is more like the garnish. Okay. So I talked a little bit about having a prayer team up front. I think that's a really great element to add, that the MC or host, the youth pastor, whoever's doing it, can point them out right in the beginning. Like, hey, we're going to have a prayer team up here. Who is that prayer team? I would have that probably be your adult leaders. I don't know. I'll just speak for myself. I don't know that I could like just tell my junior hires, like, you are going to be responsible for praying for someone going through a hard time or lead someone to Christ potentially. Would I love that to be the case? I would. However, I don't know. Maybe if I paired them with an adult or something, if there was a way I wanted to get the kids involved in the prayer team, maybe I'd have every adult have a junior high partner or something. If you have high schoolers, like more mature seniors that you feel like could do it. But I think either way, it's really great to have a prayer team up front. For what I said during the communion talk of like, if you're interested in a relationship with Jesus, like we have people up here who can answer those questions and pray with you and pray for you. Or maybe there's just a student like I said, there's that group of girls, they get very emotional during worship. I think it just brings up, they all come from like, not all of them, but a lot of them don't have spiritual support from their families. They're like a lone wolf in the Christian world, and then they go back home and they're the only Christian in their family. So I think worship might bring up just some deep stuff for them. So they might want to talk through some stuff and pray through some stuff with an adult. So just having people available. And if nobody comes up, you might actually want to have it in the back of the room. So it's a little less obvious, like, oh, they're up there crying and praying, I think I keep saying up front because our prayer team signs are in the front, but I would probably say the back might be a little less distracting, more, intimate. That would be helpful. And then one thing I've seen done at our church prayer or worship nights is like this kneeling space up front where they've kind of cleared the chairs, like in like a small area, semicircle with different pillows and things if people just want to have a different posture, sitting or kneeling or whatever. Again, your student's maturity might dictate whether or not that's a good option for you or not. And then another thing we've done that I really liked when I attended the worship nights is they would pass out like some prayer prompts or verses that as worship was going, you could like pray through some things, or like they would give you something maybe on the attributes of God, just something that would help you be reflective, maybe before communion, during communion, whatever. You could pass out something that would be a walkthrough of communion, like confession or what Jesus has to say about it, to kind of prompt them through it if your group isn't used to taking it. So yeah, something to pass out, just tangible for them, to be able to look at. And then we talked about the lights before, like the low lights are absolutely necessary. But here's where I would actually even go one step further. Junior hires are such a wild card. Like I have so many good ideas, but then I'm like, can you people handle this stuff? And depending on my group, like I just got back from camp and there were so many things where I'm like, oh, don't do that. Oh my gosh. And one of our adult volunteers looked at me and I go, I'm overly cautious, aren't I? He goes, yeah. And I said, I've been traumatized. That's why, like these are trauma responses of me thinking we could have fun. And then you guys taking it to a level where now we're in the emergency room and I'm shook, So I'm very careful with this group. I think I've just seen too many things. What I was going to say is, I think speaking of the lights, there is a cool element to lights completely off during worship. Again, are you going to turn it into like, oh my gosh, now we're carving our name on the seats or something in the dark, or worse? But our high school ministry does it every camp. And I was a part of it once when I was speaking for their winter camp, and it was at night and they turned all the lights off, and the vulnerability and the freedom you had just to worship, but you weren't alone. Like you were still with people, hearing everyone's voices. But like that element you were talking about where as a student, you're so self-conscious. You're like, I want to raise my hands, but like, am I doing it right? Are our palms facing this way or this way?
Right.
Should I do one
How
hand,
high?
two
Who
hands,
else is doing it? Did we stop doing it?
Do we do it on the chorus only?
Right.
And so there's an abandonment that happens in the dark, and it's just very freeing, and it kind of helps students take their eyes off of themselves and get in a space that they're trying to get to, but they just can't because the human factor. Like we're all human, but it kind of breaks down a wall for them and ushers them into a different space of like, you can get there. It's just, you're a teenager and it's hard. I get that. We're all a little like, do I look dumb right now? So I love that. I would definitely do the lights completely off if you can.
But like ambient light, like you're saying, candles, or I mean, obviously if there's a worship band up front, they're going to need some lights to be able to see what they're doing.
Yeah, they had like, I think little podium lights, but this was like, they call it bird box worship, like from that movie, because it's like totally dark. Like, I mean,
everyone's blindfolded,
which is so culty creepy.
Don't call it that.
Culty creepy worship or bird box worship.
Either, to be honest.
Well, they call it bird box worship every year. So like this kid came home from their camp and I was like, hey, how was Camp Desmond? He's like, oh, it was so good. Oh, we did bird box worship. I'm like, yes, I love it. See, it's memorable. And I knew exactly what he meant. So
yeah, I would also add, some of you probably are listening and it's like, I don't have a worship band. I would say that
I didn't even think of that.
if you have a band that's playing, that's awesome. If you have one person with the guitar playing, that's awesome. And if you don't have anybody, then number one, this would be a good opportunity to start finding somebody for the future. But even something as simple as like playing music, you know, a playlist off of YouTube or just the music itself, you know, like no visuals at all, like up on a screen or whatever. It's always good to have at least the lyrics, but kind of like trim to fit, like whatever you can do in your context.
Well, yeah. And I was thinking like, if you do it on a Friday night, I'm sure your church has a worship team, you know, for the main service, for the adults, for the weekend. Ask them if they can do a Friday night. I mean, what, once a year or however often you're doing this, twice a year. And I'm sure they would not mind doing it for the youth. No, I will not play worship for the youth. I'm sure
you never
they
know.
will.
All right, we're going to do a community comment of the day, and then we're going to tell you all about the giveaway information. So this comes from Yvonne Burko. This is actually not the first time we've read one of her comments. So thank you, Yvonne. Appreciate
Yvonne, you've done it again.
Hi, Kristen and Jeff. Thanks for another educating podcast. I've taken a lot of inspiration from your videos, and my youth ministry is growing by God's grace.
Whee!
That's awesome. We love to hear that stuff. Thanks,
bring
Yvonne.
them, bring them.
Okay, so 250th episode giveaway. Here are the details in a nutshell. You have to read in the description below whether you're listening on a podcast or on YouTube, but go into the description, you'll see the full details. But basically, if you want to enter the giveaway, you're going to need to send us an email that just says like 250th giveaway or something so that we know you're actually into the giveaway. And then there'll be other incentives, like if you write comments, like if you write a comment below, you can get 5 extra entries. If you do a review on our podcast, like if you go on Apple Podcast, I think Spotify, I always get confused. I don't remember if Spotify has reviews available or not, but if you do a review on Apple Podcast, it's 25 extra entries just for doing that and just things like that. So check in the description below. You can see all the information about how you can get extra entries. And then over the next, I believe it's 4 weeks-ish, we'll be giving that stuff away. So make sure you guys tune in for that.
Are you going to tell them what stuff?
That would be a good idea to do. No, you're not going to know. A box of foam.
Chef's choice.
It's the most lame giveaway, and you don't know what you're going to get. So we have a few things. It's some water bottles from Epic Water Filters. These are really cool. We actually took these on our trip to Turkey, and it's a really cool like filtration system on it where you can, if you're in some areas that maybe you're like, I don't know if I trust this water totally, it filters out all like the contaminants and things like that, which is really awesome. And it comes with 2, I think, different
It says it can take
use.
any fresh water and turn it into drinkable water.
Yeah. Which is pretty crazy. We didn't have to do that. But
no, but I almost did on the river when we just went to camp.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So there's there's dodgeballs we're giving away. There's flag football sets. There's also soccer goals, pop-up soccer goals. So anyways, make sure you guys enter and so that you can get some of those things. And obviously if you're getting in sooner, the chances of winning are greater because not as many people will have joined because next week we're going to do the first giveaway. So make sure you guys email us 250th giveaway or give me stuff or whatever it was to put in the description. Just letting us know.
Gimme.
And in the email, one more thing, make sure you put your name and address and things like that and what church you're at so that we know
where to ship it
and all those things. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. But that is very fine. But that's fine. And I don't know why I keep saying it. Hey, this one is on the long.
Sorry.
But that is awesome. I don't know why. So they can